This conference will now be recorded.
quickly start off. Commissioners, good morning. My name is Bruce Short from Partner Company KBU. For the last a year or so, we've been working back and forth with the county on a variety of options. And the first was to verify and validate what spaces were required for various justice programs. And it's been an iterative process. We first looked at all the departments, including a jail, and then we kind of pared things back and said, okay, what makes the most sense now for Waseca County and the justice system, as well as how do we handle it in the future? And so one of the things that have been pared back is the jail is no longer part of the project. It's more of a intake processing area to allow for the processing and temporary hold or court transfer of individuals, but not the long-term hold of that space. So we've done some things. We've tried to make the plans as efficient as possible, meet the needs of the departments, but try to be as efficient as possible in the planning group. So I think with that, Chris, I'll let you take over and I'll add in where needed.
Yeah, is it important that I speak into the microphone, or can I do it from here? Okay, great. All right, so we're going to step through a few slides. First, we're going to start with just an overview of the existing site. We're going to walk through how the project would be phased and the different site work and different phases of demolition and construction. We'll walk through a detailed site plan. We will walk through some floor plans, some conceptual floor plans. And then we'll also get to a proposed schedule and some budget numbers. So as you all are very familiar with, this is your existing site here. The annex courthouse, the existing jail and sheriff's office, and the towers and the different support buildings. So in this design, there would be 2 phases of demolition and construction. Phase 1 would be preparing the north side of the site. Phase 1 of construction would be building a new justice center, as well as building a new retaining wall and parking lot on the east side of the site, building a new parking lot on the north side of the site, as well as modifying the street here to have some on-street parking and an entrance for the vehicle sally port. And you can tell here, the existing jail and sheriff's office would remain functional and operational during this time. We would also be proposing building a screening enclosure around some of those support buildings and the tower that's going to remain. And here's what it would look like when the Justice Center would be complete. You have your vehicle sally port entrance, sheriff's entrance, and staff entrance on the west side, and the public entrance would be operational on the south side of the building. And this is when you would see the demolition of the existing jail and sheriff's building here. And that could happen while the new Justice Center was up and running, for a smooth transfer of operations. And phase 2 of construction would be quite a bit smaller. It would just be replacing that jail and sheriff's office with a new parking lot, would be the public parking lot. And this is what it would be when it was complete. Looking at a more detailed site plan, I'm going to switch out of the presentation mode so I have the ability to zoom in and out. So you can see the different parking lots. This is showing kind of all phases complete here. We'll start on the east side over here. So this would be a new parking lot that would really service the annex building. You'd have a drive-in and out here with some diagonal parking, handicap parking. And what's happening here is there's quite a bit of grade change on this site. And so to make all these things work with the new concept and the new building over here, we would need a retaining wall to sort of flatten out this area for parking. The north side lot would have 2 ways in and out. What we're showing here is an option where the vehicle sally port shares part of this parking lot, and that allows us to get in a few more spots. But an alternate layout would keep that sally port traffic completely separate, and you'd have your staff parking lot functional like that. The on-street parking, quick in and out near the staff entrance and sheriff entrance here. And then the south lot would be an in and out one way with diagonal parking as well. That's the public lot. Some other site features, we located some spaces where some memorial items could go. I know there's some existing things that might want to be featured near the front of the new building. You can see the screening enclosure in the tower. And we'll get into a more detailed layout of the first level, but generally the vehicle sally ports down here, a small intake holding, some building services, dispatch, some sheriff support spaces are here. Fitness and wellness is located on this lower level as well as the EOC. Here's a little bit more of a detailed look. Again, these are conceptual plans. You know, a lot of times at this stage of the game, you're just seeing general blocks of space. But as we've been working through this, we wanted to make sure that every space was accounted for. You know, we've trimmed, we've examined the program. And so you see some of the layouts here. Again, the vehicle sally port and the intake holding is on the north side. You have access to an inmate elevator that brings you up to the courtrooms. That's essential for keeping the different traffic separated between inmate, staff, and public. Dispatch again is located on this floor. As I said, the wellness center. There's a lot of sheriff support spaces, including evidence and evidence processing. Again, that's critical, having a separate sheriff's entrance into those spaces. And then you see the EOC is down here as well.
And as Chris mentioned too, I just want to point out that while these plans appear very finalized in the detail of the layout of the spaces, it's still very conceptual. Because the first step would be to meet with all the departments and make sure the size doesn't enclose absolutely work for their requirements.
Thanks, Chris. Level one would be the main public floor. Main public level, again, you would be walking in on this level from the south if you were the public. You come into a secure area for screening and queuing. The security folks would have their own office here. And what we're showing is a proposed access into the annex building. So as you approach into the building, your public stair would be right in front of you, your elevator would be right in front of you, and everything else would be right at your fingertips. You'd have your the DOC and court services directly to your right, the waiting area, your county attorney directly to your left, and then if you were to walk in and look down the hall, you would see the sheriff's office and records area right in front of you. So as I said, the DOC and court services is on the east side. Their spaces are laid out very efficiently, matching the programmatic elements that we've been discussing with them. Similar on the county attorney. There's some staff circulation here, which again, we've paid very close attention to make sure the circulation in this building is appropriate for a modern courthouse and sheriff's office. And you can see the sheriff's office laid out up on the north side. You know, we've even gone in to make sure that there's enough spaces for janitor's closet, IDF rooms, and things like that. So all spaces accounted for. So this would be level 2. If you were coming from the south side, it's really a 2-story building. Again, on the north side, it's going to appear more like a 3-story building because of the grade change. So this would be level 2. We've got a jury courtroom and a hearing room. We've got court admin on the east side and some court spaces and jury deliberation suite on the west side, as well as ample room for county attorney rooms and a public defender workroom as well. And again, you see that public circulation here. That inmate circulation is directly up between the courtrooms and the staff circulation behind. We've got some conceptual site and building elevations, and these are really just to show, like I said, it would appear like a 2-story building as you enter from the south on the public side, and here you can see on the north side, more of a 3-story building. But again, really not competing with the existing courthouse.
And actually, we did a perspective from this corner out here, which is what is the north or the south.
The southeast corner.
Looking across to make sure that it really didn't interfere or impose on the historic courthouse. We really wouldn't see it sit back.
And here's the east and west, really just to show that grade change, which is a challenge, but of course, no challenge too great for us to solve. So works out very well, actually. I'm going to turn it back to Bruce to discuss the schedule.
So, really, it's so much of what we do in our part of the country is looking at when is the best time to bid a project. Typically, when you look at the time frame, anywhere between say December and February, most contractors are looking for it. So really, that's a good time frame. It's also a good time frame because if then they secure the project and say it's beginning of February or March, that gives them time to get things started before the ground falls. They can actually start foundations and construction because they really can't start for all intents and purposes to the ground falls. It allows them to get things in order, get materials ordered, things like that. So we laid it out based on what it takes to properly go through the design phases, which are schematic designs when you nail down, finalize the floor plans from all the departments, you finalize what the exterior is going to look like, you work through all the site plans, stormwater requirements, grading, all the various issues, and you finish that in schematic design, which is a couple month period. Then you go into design development, which is much more detailed and adding where the outlets are, the type of finishes, things like this, mechanical systems, mechanical controls. That's another 2 to 3 month period, and then finalize construction documents. So what we're showing is that roughly 10 to 11 months, that design phase is those design phases, schematic, design development, construction. Then roughly 2 months to bid and award the project. And then we're assuming right now, probably 16 to 18 months construction. And that needs to be finalized based on the final design and things like that. So we're showing that if the county were to proceed in January, you'd be looking at occupying, and we didn't show the 2 phases, which are lapped in that construction period. Basically, you'd be looking at a final project somewhere in the summer of 2026. The next slide then deals with the cost estimate. And so the way we break it down is when you're doing a study, you don't have all the detail in the project. Like I said, you don't know the finishes of the courtroom, you don't know the technology in the courtroom. You're making some assumptions about what's typical for these projects. But we haven't refined it. So you're doing a high and low estimate to allow for the variables that haven't been accounted for. And then you also break it down, again, in a study, you're looking at overall kind of square footage of types of spaces and the cost of those types of spaces. Because a holding area, a jail area that requires reinforced concrete walls, security controls and doors, cameras, things like that, is a more expensive space than an office space. So when we do the cost estimate, we break it down into those types of spaces. So you'll see that we got the new processing area ranging from about 950 to 1 million. The new courts area, including, now I've identified some possible alternates at the bottom, and I'll discuss that when I get down to them, but the courts areas themselves about 1.5 to 1.7. New office building, which is the bulk of the rest of the building, is about 14 to 15.5. The demolition of the existing building is about 600 to 750. The site work associated with some elements is about 780 to 870. Then the new generator, which again, whether we're backing up the entire building or portions of the building, still needs to be decided, but it's about 75,100. When you combine all those items together, you're looking at about an $18 to $20 million project. On top, and we've noted also the antenna and the support buildings for the antenna are staying where they are. Then when you add those together, the other item you look at is design and construction contingency. So again, the variables unknown, and then you always want to allow 5% or roughly 5% for construction contingency, the unknowns that happen during construction. And so if you add that roughly 10% contingency, it brings the total project total to 19.8 to about 22 million. The other part of any project is what's considered soft costs. So that's soil testing, that's new furniture systems, that's professional service fees, a variety of other things that go into it. I'm not thinking of Paul right now, but there's a lot of other aspects that go into implementing a project that aren't included, that are considered soft costs. And again, we estimated that right around 18%. So that would bring the total project, including construction and soft costs, right around 23.4 to about 26 million. Now, in the state of Minnesota, the state had, since 2014, has allowed counties and cities to be exempt of material taxes. Now, we have to review it. We've had some clients that have done it. Some of our clients have said yes, and we've done it, like Rochester and some others have gone on that and saved money on some of their projects. But it is a discussion. But that material tax savings would be about 450, about 600,000, which would bring the project roughly to about 23 to 25.4 or somewhere in there. The alternates we've listed below are in addition to those numbers. So we broke them out as options. What we propose with the county is, as we develop the documents, we're still looking for a number of alternates on the project. So if the bids come in really well, you have the option to select the alternates included. So it gives you some flexibility after bidding. One is that east parking lot next to the annex, north of the annex, roughly about 200 to 240, with a retaining wall and work associated with that. Shelling one of the courtrooms, the hearing courtroom, which is a smaller one, if we decide to shell it, like I did on Blue Earth County years ago in their facility, we shelled one of their courtrooms. It saves some money. Again, it's with the caveat that it still is less expensive to do it now versus 2 years down the road. There's a certain inflation now. But look at some of the alternates. So the courtroom, roughly a $50,000 to $65,000 additional cost that was done. Enclosing the connection between the courthouse and the annex, about 100 to 140. The angled parking we show off on the streets, about that 150 to 165. And then the new parking lot to the north, 170 to 185. And those total alternates add about 670 to about 800,000. So again, giving some variety and options to the county moving ahead of the project. I think in a nutshell, in the 18 minutes or so we presented, we've hit on all the information. So I think we open up to the board for any questions you all might have.
Explain what shell the courtroom means.
Oh, okay. So basically you build a space, you know, to put utilitarian kind of lighting in there, and you have to run a sprinkler system. And you run some air in just to get some air movement in space, but it means you're not finishing out the walls, if there's wood panels, if there's furniture in there, it's like a warehouse space, if you will. Yeah. So it's a way to save a few bucks by if you don't need it right away, your primary courtroom would serve, it saves a little bit of money by not finishing out all that stuff. You don't have to put the ceiling in, all those things.
Okay.
Of course, it's prepped, totally ready. If you were to decide to finish it out at any point, all the services would be there.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? I don't know if you guys can answer these questions or internally we gotta need to answer them, but the square footage of this building?
It's just over 43,000.
And what we're moving into the building, how does that, when it's all said and done, or how much square footage are we going to increase county occupancy if this were to close and what we're moving into? You know, we're displacing people by moving them into the new building. So how much square footage are we adding?
In other words, a comparison of the existing square footage that are occupied by these various departments versus what the total building are getting.
Right.
We'd have to look at that. I don't know if we totally assess that. We could easily get that number.
Anecdotally, I know when we've kind of worked and studying through the different groups, there hasn't been a ton of planned growth. So it's not like we're building on a whole bunch of new offices that someday you might grow into. It was really, what do you have now? What are the few pieces maybe you wish you'd have? But weren't, anecdotally not adding a ton for growth.
And then once it's all done, parking, we're gonna have 3 parking lots. So is that increasing our parking space, I would imagine across the road, then we will eliminate that parking.
I don't know if we've talked about that with the committee. I mean, for now, we haven't addressed that at all. But clearly, we'd be adding a lot more parking on site than you currently have.
That's what I thought too.
This rendering that you have, there is, if down the road, there's a room for a jail at that point in time.
It would, we designed the commissioner that the parking lot to the north could then become that future jail. And it all ties directly to it. It works quite well, actually.
We have that all laid out as well. If you ever were to need that, it's in the study, we actually examined what it would look like.
It would tie into the building.
Yes.
Is there a, why is the courtroom on the third floor? Is there a reason for that, or is that just the way they do it?
Well, you know, it's interesting. Chris mentioned that, you know, the National Center for State Courts has stated for years that's going to go to separate the movement of inmates, public, and court staff. It's a security issue. By placing the courtrooms on the second floor, it allows for that holding area to be below it and move the inmates up through it. If you put them on the same floor, then you're having to cross a corridor at some point in time, and normally that's like the judge's corridor or something like that. So from a flow and connection standpoint, it's always stacked well. I think almost every facility that I've done in the last 20 years in Minnesota, I think they've all been based on that layout.
Say two other little tidbits. One is, you know, when we do study of the traffic flow in the building, who's going where, how many people are visiting what space. You know, most often your court services, you know, the things that we located on the first floor are the highly trafficked areas, so they're right off the lobby. And of course, when you have court, you know, people are using that as well. But another nice bit for having them on the top floor is the ability to get daylight into the courtroom as well, which is a perk. But I'd say what Bruce said is the main driver is keeping those, you know, public, the staff, and the inmate circulation separate.
So with the 43,000 square feet, you know, cost divided by, gives you so much a square foot. If there was ever a jail added, do we know what the square footage would be of that particular jail? For say a 6 to 9 inmate.
Remember the
Yeah,
exact.
I'd have to look, Commissioner, I'd have to look, let me open that up real quick and see.
And I understand that though, you know, if we're talking 10 years out or what have you, if we're even talking about it, it's going to be a different price tag than what we're talking about here,
Let's see if I can-
just by the building design.
Let me see if I can find it real quick. The jail cost has been, like everything, has been going up crazy. And the number we've been using as a ballpark number is anywhere from $500 to $600 a square foot for those types of spaces. Let's see if I can find it. Maybe older.
And that would also come with minimal changes into the existing building.
Yeah, you really, it'd be, you might expand your, yeah, in essence, yes. You expand your holding kind of intake area, because now it's a booking area, but everything else would just tie right to it. So it would, and you still have that secure separation. One foot.
You can certainly get that square footage of the
Yeah,
actual
it's just
jail.
something, you know, question to be answered.
So you said that it, rough figuring for a jail, you figure 500 to 600 square feet, did I hear that?
Yep.
Dollars per square foot. And that's you know, if you take your figures here, which this is everything, contingency and everything, we're at 534 for office space.
I don't know, are you including soft costs in that? 'Cause the soft costs aren't included in that 500 to 600. That's, construction costs are that 500 to 600. You can take that separate from soft costs.
Okay, and you probably haven't figured in contingency or soft costs.
So when you take a square footage, what we do historically to compare it against other projects is we do take and add in the contingency to it. We don't add the soft costs. One is just strictly construction costs. So if you do divide that, so what I would divide is I would divide the 23 to 26 by that 43,000 Chris talked about.
43.6 basically.
43,600.
I'm sorry, the 19, you would take the 19.8 to the 22 divided by the 43. So you took the 19 million, so yeah, you're right around 430 or so is the blended rate. Office space, we're seeing office space anywhere from 380 to about 425 a square foot. That's what we're seeing on the standard. So, and we're anticipating, we built in some level of inflation into this, anticipating bid to occur next year, in 2024. So we did add, even for current day dollars, we're adding typically 5% per year as an inflation factor.
Can you give me that range on square footage on office space? 3,
About 380 to 425 is what we're saying.
I'll note, I think another thing that we've taken great care on is to make sure that we're actually planning in building services spaces, mechanical, electrical, IDF, janitor closet, storage. We don't want to come in and just give you an absolute bare bones, have something to move forward and say, oh, by the way, there's 10,000 more square feet that we didn't show you earlier that the building needs. So just something in our planning that we include.
And if it helps the commissioners, if it helps you all, we'd be glad to put together a spreadsheet of current or recent facilities that have been completed and what those areas and costs have been, because it's right within those ranges.
Mhm. How detailed do you want to get with these guys? If, in our talks, in all our work sessions, we talked about wanting to put up a building for 20 million. So do you have any suggestions on how we get to that point?
So 20 million, because right now from a construction standpoint, we're in that 20 million range.
Right.
What you're saying is total project.
Total project. That's what I was thinking. Maybe
Well, it's all a relationship with area building. It really is. I mean, we pulled those alternates out to give some flexibility, because we add those alternates into some areas, of course, it's gonna add costs too. I know our numbers are in line with what typical construction has been, so I think
and I guess I don't expect you guys to know how it should cost. That's up to us to do that if we need to.
We've worked through a few different iterations of this, and the square footage we've come up with has come down each time, verifying, do we need this? Do you need that? Can this be a little smaller? So unfortunately, there's probably not a ton to cut out right now without cutting some of your programmatic spaces.
and it's not that there couldn't be, so one of the things we looked at, Commissioner, is we were working with Brian and Michael very closely on how to make this as compact and efficient as possible. So one of the things we're looking at is, what if you take 6 inches out of here and 4 inches out of here, and you kind of slice and dice? Because the reality is, when somebody goes in that office, 4 inches or 6 inches have been squeezed down from one plan to another, nobody's gonna notice it. But what we were able to achieve was about 1,600 square feet, somewhere in there that we could slice and dice things and squeeze things in. And there might be some more compressing. But to get down to the 20, I think we gotta cut roughly about 15% of the area, or about another 6,000 square feet, which is almost roughly another 2,000 square feet per floor. That, I mean, not that there couldn't be some savings, which I think there could be. I think we could go through it again and find some slices. I think getting to that, additional 6,000 to get down total project to 20 could be a little tight. There might be some sacrifices. But it's not, couldn't be done. Just at the end of the day, does it work for the departments and everybody? And is it worth it to get down that additional little bit if it impacts the future use of the facility? If you're losing spaces, do you really want to lose spaces? I don't think we added, the other thing is shell offices, just like the shell courtroom. You could shell offices, which saves, so by shelling something, instead of it being, say, $400 a square foot, you still have to do everything else, the building and everything else. So you're still saving, it's still about 250 to 225 square foot for even the shell space. So you are saving 60 or 40% or so, or 50% of that space. So anyway, I'm saying if there were some additional offices to be shelled, it's not going to get us there without reducing area. But again, I think if it's the county's direction as the project proceeds to get the project as high as possible, you look at options. One of the things is you look at that soft cost. When we get into soft costs, we break all the soft costs down by all the things we talked about, the fees, the furniture, and everything else. Is there reuse of existing furniture on a temporary basis? Because furniture can be a big number. Furniture a lot of times can be 3% of the construction, so it can be $600,000 to $800,000 for new furniture. Do you try to utilize your existing furniture for a period of time and not build new furniture? I think there's some strategies for discussion. Everything's open for discussion. You understand what the goal is.
So historically speaking, when you try and buy the material and move forward with a project, inflationary times, have you seen it come down, or is it always, going up?
I wish. I mean, the only thing, and I've talked to a lot of people about this, a lot of contractors about it as well. What happened is we came out of COVID and there was this ridiculous spike. I mean, literally, there were a lot of construction trade magazines that showed like a 20% spike coming out of COVID. Things have definitely leveled back down to that 5%. Material cost had gone ridiculously up because there wasn't a lot of availability during that shortage and whatnot. We're seeing things level out, but unless literally construction stopped to the point where contractors had little to no work, then it potentially could come down a little bit. But with the state funding, and with the funds that the state has infused into the economy on all these other projects, I just have a hard time seeing that coming in the next 5 to 8 years. And then by the time we get up 5 to 8 years, it's already starting to creep up right now.
One question.
Yes.
The other day, there was this, and we're talking about where we could trim square footage. Was there an update to this from when we met last week? And we talked about storage for the courts. And that they had quite a large storage area, probably bigger than what was needed if we were gonna, because it was like 800 square feet.
File room. Are you thinking the court admin file room?
Yes.
Yeah, it was updated.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Not by much, but.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, I just was thinking we had talked about that.
Most offices are like 10 by 12, 120 square feet, I think, for most of them. Attorneys might be a little bit bigger, judges are a little bit larger than that, but again, we try to make things efficient. I think nothing is grossly overselling. The front hallway, right now, when you go up to your court, when everybody goes up that stairway, there's just like no room for waiting. I think we have 20 feet, Chris, between the attorney counsel's rooms
A
and the.
little less than that.
So,
Space for waiting.
yeah, it's a waiting area, but again, we didn't go excessive there either. So I mean, we're trying very hard. The hallways are 6 feet in most areas. So again, it's not an excessive hallway. Anything less than that, you start to get a little cramped when two people are passing each other. So try to do our due diligence. And we'll continue to whittle if that's the commission's goal. We can look for other options and see. We can get another couple thousand square feet out, that's potentially another $800,000 or so. So we can look for that, because that's 2,000 square feet is, it's a 700 square feet per floor. So that's potentially something we can try to achieve. 6,000, I just think it's hard. But again, that coupled with maybe reuse of some furniture, maybe you're starting to get closer.
Anything else from the board? Michael, do you have anything to weigh in on? At this time?
Not particular.
Excellent direction.
I mean, ultimately, Mr. Chair, it's a continual conversation, so this is informational. Just as the previous conversations have been informational, and ultimately this culminates in a decision of some point by the commissioners in the future. So there's nothing particularly to poke and prod at in this project. I've appreciated the effort to continue whittling. I would agree that if this was the plan, there wouldn't be much reason to change it further than it is. I think it becomes a different conversation at that point in time to making the fiscal narrative work. That's solely my perspective there. Ultimately, it's a philosophical and a fiscal conversation, and both of those worlds have to work. So whether it's this plan or previous iterations, those are the two narratives that ultimately have to find balance.
One of the other topics I think, Michael, we talked about too, is what's the tax impact? So the tax impact of the $23 million versus $20 million project. If that's, $2 per year to the residents of the county, is it worth it to go with what you need and just stay with certain budgets? But I think that's an important analysis too when you move forward. What is that tax impact?
Okay,
Thank you, commissioners.
thank you for your time.
We're available if there's anything else you have questions on. Otherwise, we'll hopefully see you in December at the AMC.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Bruce. Chris.
Thank you, it's been a pleasure.
Anything else for the work session? Then you get those guys, for the day they got open the side, they bring it out. They'll make the whole day go better. First order building trip. Another truck out there, they reloaded. He called it. Which way you get back? He took me down to Chicago, 5 per hour.
Oh.
On the loop, 70 mile an hour. I was bumper to bumper.
All right, it is 9:30. Welcome to the Board of Commissioners meeting. Please silence your cell phones and stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. If you have not signed in, please do so at the main door of the podium. Is anyone here for public comment? Please go up to the side podium, state your name and address.
Larry Muff from Northville. You need my street address also.
Sure.
314 South Broadway, Commercial, Minnesota. I'm here today on behalf of Paul Stennis. Paul's not feeling well enough to attend here today, otherwise he'd be here. On July 23rd, 2023, he sent a letter by email about the damages that occurred to Paul Stennis' property during the 2016 flood in Richland, which were due to the dike that was built on Highway 13 to protect the city of Richland. I've received 3 emails since then that were mainly exploratory in nature. They offered sympathy to those that suffered damages and the ability to attend the public part of the commissioner meeting. I was told I could not just come bring this item to the commissioners, ask their opinion. That I need to bring this issue here today at public part and ask the chair to see if they would accept or deny our request that we put on the commissioner's agenda. So I'm here today requesting that chair put this issue on a following agenda, then notify myself of the time and date so that Paul's family members can arrange time from their work schedules to attend this matter.
Thank you, Larry. We will discuss with the administrator and be in touch with you. Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Public comment? All right, with that being said, I want to say one thing before approval of the agenda. District 3 Commissioner Blair Nelson's seat for the city, it's in Woodville, the city of Waseca. There will be a primary on November 7th, and the regular election will be held February 13th. So please look at the notices and get out and vote if that is in your area. All right.
Chairman, Woodville Township?
City of Woodville Township, but city of Waseca.
Okay,
District 3.
understand now.
Correct.
Thank you.
Moving on to approval of the agenda. Commissioner Walter, do you have anything to add or delete?
No, not on my own behalf. I'll let others do that.
Commissioner Christopherson?
No, Mr. Chair, I have nothing.
Commissioner Krause?
No, Mr. Chair.
Michael?
Mr. Chair, request that item A under action items be tabled to the November 7th meeting if it be the board's pleasure. Mr. Eccles will be joining the board at that date to request a formal letter of commitment from the board and also give a presentation of final construction cost estimates for that border-to-border low density program application that will be submitted shortly thereafter.
Thank you. Beth?
I don't think so.
With that being said, we will remove item A in the action items, and the previous printed is different
than the online that was updated this morning. With the statewide affordable housing aid allocation. So with those changes, I would look for motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Christopherson, second by Commissioner Krause. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you. 3 is ditch authority. A is the 2024 ditch assessments.
Morning, everyone. We're here to review this morning is the proposed ditch assessments for year 2024. Annually, the BOC County Board, acting as the ditch authority, reviews proposed assessments prepared for by drainage staff. We evaluate the health of the funds and anticipate upcoming maintenance, repairs, and administrative costs. And after some work, we've given a list of the proposed 2024 ditch assessments for review, discussion, or approval. And if you will note in your 2024 ditch assessments, there is a county ditch 31 that's highlighted in yellow, which is part of a long-term special assessment. We did have a work session on that system earlier this year. We held a work session March 7th, and we had a landowner meeting for that particular system April 27th, and we did not receive a lot of feedback on our proposed long-term assessment, and so we feel that at this point in time, it is the best that we can offer the beneficiaries of that system. So with that being said, looking for a motion to approve the 2024 ditch assessments.
Okay. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Krause, second by Commissioner Christopherson. Discussion.
I guess just thanks to the folks that have worked on this, I know that we're trying to spend some time and energy making it more thoughtful about our ditch management, and so I know that due diligence was taken with this process.
I agree with Commissioner Mulder that we're trying to get our ditches in the black and up to grade, and that it'd be as easy on our constituents as we can to get there. So
It's no small task.
no, that's right, and it's taken a lot of time. Land Resource Department, but they're working on it.
All right, if there's no other discussion, all those in favor of the 2024 ditch assessment, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. B is the annual interest review.
We are here this morning to discuss the interest rate extended to the public drainage system for 2024. If the board recalls, last November, through resolution 2022-42, a policy was created to assist in aiding to set the interest policy for the year, and the criteria of that was that we use the federal prime interest rate plus 3%, and it also has a cap of 4%. So long story short, it goes between 3 and 4%. Currently, federal interest rate is 5.5%, and if you add 3 to it, it's 8.5%. So at this point in time, it automatically defers to 4%.
All right, looking for a motion for that resolution.
I would move this resolution with the exception of of the CD 31, which we made decisions about separately in March, and the special circumstances that surround that ditch system.
Is there a second?
There is.
We have a motion by Commissioner Walter with amendment, and a second by Commissioner Krause. Discussion.
If we could clarify the CD 31 interest rate during the work session, it was to be extended to County Ditch 31 to the improvement and the separable maintenance at a rate of 1%.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Just one other point of clarification for the minutes. This isn't a separate resolution being acted upon today. The resolution adopted last year is in perpetuity unless the board comes back to change the policy by resolution. So it is just setting the annual rate. Just to clarify, there isn't a resolution today being acted on.
It is the 2022. Any other discussion?
So I'm not sure if I understand the motion. Is the motion including the 1% to 31, or do we need another?
I would do them separately.
Okay.
So we'll be voting on just
The interest rate.
the interest rate to the old resolution.
How about if I withdraw my motion?
Okay.
And let's do this in two separate actions.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, let's begin again.
I would move the policy.
At 4%.
Yes.
And is there a second?
And there is.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Walter and a second by Commissioner Krause to go with the 4% maximum interest rate. Is there discussion on that? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Now we will do the second part, which is CD 31 at a maximum of 1%. Is there a motion for that?
Move that.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Christopherson, a second by Commissioner Krause. Now discussion.
I think we just want to clarify that we had discussion and took action to make this decision back in March based on special circumstances surrounding this particular ditch. We want to see the changes that happened and the payment for that continue on until it's finished, and then hope that we don't ever have to make exceptions to the policy now that we have established going forward. But in fairness to that ditch system, folks on that ditch system, we have already made the decision on this, that we need to get through paying for what they've already got in the books.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Walter. Anyone else? No other discussion. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Number 4 is approval of the county board minutes. There are 4. There's 3 work sessions and a commissioner meeting in the minutes. If everyone's had a chance to look those over, I would look for a motion to approve.
I would move approval as a slate.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
There is a second.
Motion by Commissioner Christopherson, second by Commissioner Walter. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye? Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion carries as a slate. 5 is the consent agenda, which is approval of the bills, September transfers, fund transfer 119, medical examiner contract for 2024, 2025 MPCA county feedlot program delegation agreement, and the conditional use permit extension for Fox Gardens LLC. Looking for a motion for the consent agenda.
I would move the consent agenda.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
We have a second.
Motion by Commissioner Walter, second by Commissioner Krause. Any discussion on the consent agenda? If there is none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 6 is action items. A has been scratched for the time being. B would be the statewide affordable housing aid allocation. Tara? Good morning.
Thanks. Thanks, Brian.
Good morning, I'm Tara Rich with Mid Prairie. So just a point of clarification as I start, this too is not actually a resolution. This will just be regular board action. So just following up in July, this board had passed a resolution, and I apologize I did not put the resolution number on here, but you passed a resolution to establish a local housing trust fund for Waseca County. And with that, also allocated 90% of the local prevention aid dollars into that local housing trust fund. Since that time, we've become aware of additional housing funding that is coming out through allocations. This additional one is called the statewide affordable housing aid. So the amounts that Waseca County is slated to get in 2023 and 2024 is $98,000. And so just want to recommend that the board would make an action to move that funding into the local housing trust fund. One of the primary benefits to doing that is that once you move it into your local housing trust fund, it's considered expended. And so then the 4-year requirement to get that spent is you've met that. And so then you're able to utilize those funds as you need in order to fulfill the housing needs of the city. With that, I'd be welcome to entertain any questions. Otherwise, recommending board action to appropriate 100% of the statewide affordable housing aid to your local housing trust fund.
Looking for a motion for that.
I would move that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Walter, second by Commissioner Christopherson. Discussion.
Is this one-time money?
It's
Two
for sure in 2023 and 2024.
So, and this was announced right at the end of session then, or it was passed during session?
I believe so.
So we don't have, it's just gonna go in the pot. Or is there any designation for it right now once it gets into the trust?
So that is a second piece that's not on the agenda for today. But what we need to do as far as that local housing trust fund is to set up your advisory committee for Waseca County. And so, if not today, potentially at your next meeting, we can get on the board agenda that you all would designate who from your board would like to be part of the advisory committee for the local housing trust funds. Once we've established your representative, then Karina Schmitz, our housing resource specialist, will start connecting with you to determine who else from your community do you want to invite to that team. Then that committee will make a recommendation for the funds, and then ultimately that recommendation from the advisory committee comes back to your board for final approval.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Tara. Tara did a great job explaining this to the administrative group last week as well too. So it's something I'm very supportive of moving forward with today if the board is willing to do so. But she's also being gracious. I was supposed to put the language about the previous resolution number on there, so that's my fault, not hers. But in that initial resolution that was approved, we did have a conversation if the board is willing to continue with Commissioner Malter and Christopherson as part of that committee of the local housing trust fund, given the existing subcommittee assignment to the Prairie Joint Board as well. So I just wanted to clarify that that's already what we're operating under the assumption of, unless the board would like to interject or participate as well.
Do we need to bring that back before the board?
We don't, in my mind, no, because we already had that conversation, we already made that determination. But the only reason would be is if you'd like to change the designation. The action at that point in time was just a model with the existing subcommittee list and designated for the joint powers.
what happens if all that money is not used in those 2 years? I mean, does it roll into something else as it gets sent back?
So once you put it into your local housing trust fund, it's considered expended. So once it's in your local housing trust fund, you can keep it in there as long as you need, as you're planning, your future years on how you're going to bring affordable housing and meet the affordable housing needs.
So it doesn't need to be spent the same year you receive it. And I
Correct.
understand that one of the payments is December 26th for the second half, so you're not gonna get that done before it is.
Correct. I think it's a 4-year. Yeah, it must be spent by December 31st of the 4th year after it was received. So there is considerable time to spend it. But again, putting it into that local housing trust fund then considers it expended.
You guys probably know I'm
This was one of those last minute committee changes in the legislative session. You were correct in that. This didn't show up in some of those earlier drafts of what counties were anticipating in new money for 2023 or 24. This was last minute.
That's what I thought. I was trying to, I don't remember talking about this while we were setting up our trust fund.
Correct, yeah, correct. This was kind of a May 15th type of ad. But similar, as Terry was explaining, similar to what the rules governing American Rescue Plan Act dollars were in terms of counterfactual revenue loss, creating that resolution in that instance, not needed to hear the resolution for that HDM was done. But designating those dollars specifically to this program, it's considered spending them. So we're going to qualify for what those governing rules would be, even in that 4-year time limit. It's going to be irrelevant at that point.
And I would just say, this is exactly why we established that housing trust fund, so that as dollars became available, if they became available, that we would have a place to put them, park them, so we could plan to use them. And this allows us to do that without worrying about having to give it back. It gives us time to make plans, which can take, when it comes to planning housing, that can take considerable time. So this is the very reason why we established that trust fund. And this is a way to help grow it so that we can, because it's going to take some resources to affect our housing shortage.
Okay, if there's no other discussion, we do have a motion and second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Letter C, Mr. Jim.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Take a little of your time this morning. First item is resolution 2023-37. It is a resolution supporting a local road improvement grant solicitation for County Road 3. Right now, the state is soliciting applications for construction years 2024 through 2026 for the local road improvement program. Legislature appropriated about $103 million in the program this last session. And now is the time for local agencies to submit their applications. I've got a number of them for you today. The first one is, like I said, County Road 3. This is a application looking for your support for shoulder paving on County Road 3 from County Road 14 on the east side of Janesville up to Trunk Highway 60. It's about 6.8 miles of road, currently concrete road with gravel shoulders. I applied for federal highway safety improvement funds a year or two ago and was awarded $750,000 to pave 4-foot shoulders on that stretch road in 2026. I'm actually drafting a LRIP grant application to upscope or enhance that project to build 6-foot shoulders, and would leverage $750,000 of HSIP money along with our local match, which at that time was $150,000 to construct 4-foot shoulders.
And then, so we're leveraging all those dollars in an application for $350,000 of LRIP to scope that project. I think that's about it, I guess, really for that one. For sports.
All right, motion to adopt that resolution. Is there a second?
There is.
Motion by Commissioner Walter, second by Commissioner Krause, open for discussion.
So this is extra money to enhance the shoulder.
Correct.
Already got money to shoulder 4 foot.
Yep. So that road has 8-foot gravel shoulders and could support 6-foot paved shoulders. Again, it's just a way to enhance the project overall. And really trying to craft an application, I think, that would gain favor when they're scoring these. As we're going to have some money of our own into the pot, I could ask for the $150,000 that the county would have to match for 4-foot shoulders. But, showing we have some skin in the game should show some favor when we're reviewing and scoring these projects. So I actually have another one like this, 14 coming down the pipe, but, so that's, and that was kind of what they angled in a informational webinar too. If you can leverage some of your own cash.
Any other questions? Comments?
I appreciate that you have done your homework to forward a grant application that will fulfill the rubric that they've got out there. Being this is in my district, I also really appreciate the thought that of wider paved shoulders on this road. It is a winding road along the lake. And there's a lot of farm traffic that goes on this, and a ton of semi-traffic from the north part of the county down to the ethanol plant. And just from a safety feature, two more feet of shoulder on each side makes that road safer for everybody that goes on it.
That's kind of, I didn't really mention it, but it's in your summary for each of these items is we'll be targeting that rural road safety account for this project. It's already got the safety dollars in the federal pot. And yes, I mean, it scores really high on a priority perspective. The runoff, road crashes, and traffic volume and curb density and all that kind of ways into that. So.
Yeah, well, that was going through my head too, why you target this road, but I figured it was either traffic but that clears it up for me. Thank you.
Good. All right. If there's no other discussion, we do have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Okay, next one is resolution 2023-38, another LRIP grant solicitation. This one is for County Road 5 from Highway 13, just north of town here, to County Road 19, about 7.7 miles west of Highway 13. Another rural road safety account application looking for those funds from the state. We've been awarded $500,000 of federal safety funds for this project to pave again 4-foot shoulders, which is capped and requires a 10% match. This road is a little bit narrower, can't support the enhancement. So my application here is for the LRIP grant to fund the local match in our shortfall project. So we're applying for $480,000 for this project.
All right, looking for a motion. We have a second.
And a second.
Motion by Commissioner Walter, second by Commissioner Krause. Discussion?
Jim, we will eventually probably get all of the county roads.
Eventually is open-ended enough, I guess, yeah.
Okay, as long as we got a goal that I know we're working for, so.
These are really, I think, again, I'm trying to craft, well, between 24 and 26 construction years. So these are already in the program. They've already received federal funds. So again, they look, in my mind, and kind of what they've, again, angled as really good candidates for this LRIP funding.
Hey, you knew that question was coming.
Yes, county road reports on.
Any other discussion? So we do have a motion and a second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign, motion carries.
Thank you. All right, next one is County Road 14, LRIP grant solicitation, resolution 2023-39. This one is to pave shoulders on County Road 14 from the intersection west of Janesville with the new US 14 all the way to the west side of the city of Waseca, excluding the city of Janesville. So about 10 miles. Again, we've received a federal grant to do this at $500,000 for 4-foot shoulders. In 2026, this one again can support the wider shoulders, so looking to enhance our scope of this project to 6-foot shoulders as well. And leveraging that $500,000 federal money with $600,000 of 20 state aid highway construction funds, and requesting $735,000 of local road improvement funds for this project, almost a $2 million project.
Looking for motion to approve.
I would move it.
Is there a second? Second. Motion by Commissioner Krause, second by Commissioner Christopherson. Open for discussion.
With all this, with shouldering that would cut down our maintenance hugely on.
Yes, a lot of traffic, obviously alternate route to Route 14.
Yeah.
It carries a ton of ag equipment traffic and truck traffic that aren't using New 14. And
Because you always get those spots from the edge of the concrete onto that gravel, that first 12 inches, it always gets beat out so bad. But this would make.
And then obviously the safety benefits, which is how we received the federal money of trying to reduce the runoff of crashes. You know, gives people more time, more hard surface to recover. Along the maintenance.
How many miles are these three are the county?
Yep.
Obviously, and how many miles total were they? It was 10 and 6, 8, and
Yeah, so like 24 miles. So
24 miles. And how many years out are we then before we have to do some maintenance on that shoulder?
A long time. You know, it's there supporting the travel lanes, but it's not seeing the volume of traffic that the travel lanes are. It's gonna be designed to carry the traffic it needs to. It should perform for a very long time.
And we have enough width on all the roads to back grade and bring it up so we don't have any break.
And that's why, you know, Highway 14 probably has 10-foot shoulders, but I'm not asking to pave 10, I'm asking to pave 6, so we have room to still go up and fill out.
All right, we do have a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor, aye? Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Okay, next one is resolution 2023-40. This one is County Road 103, LRIP grant solicitation or application. This one, applying for $545,000 to fully fund pavement reconditioning on County Road 103, which is also known as Euchre Road or 330th Avenue, which is the Woodville Township Road. The board took over as a county road earlier this year. So again, so this one I am asking to fully fund the project. See how it goes.
Looking for a motion.
I would move it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Krause, second by Commissioner Christopherson. Open for discussion.
So you're putting a grant in, so you're looking for that money.
Yep.
We got a pretty good chance that we.
For one application's in, right?
I mean, it's well needed.
Yes, right, and so we'll be targeting the routes of regional significance account for this one. Just, you know, doesn't fit in and fall in our current road safety plan, so that's kind of and it doesn't meet the requirements for the truck highway. So So my application is crafted to kind of talk about its significance, right? Right. You know, the reasons we took it over as a county road from the township. Because of the volume of traffic, the type of traffic, the movements that are happening out there and where people are going. So yeah, I think I'd like to say I'm putting together a good application.
I hope it works.
Yeah. Each of these pots of money, you know, I don't know how much is allocated to each pot, but there is some equity across the state of how many, you know, grants or how many dollars from each pot will go to District 7 or District 6. So there's some of that in play. And I'm kind of spreading this out across the board, applying for funds for each year from 2 different pots. You know, really kind of, other than this one, not asking for full funding. So I think all that leverages out to be a great application.
I appreciate, all of these things take a lot of time and work, and I really appreciate the time and energy you're putting in to put in good, reasonable requests to take advantage of all that funding that is out there, because you don't get it if you don't ask for it. And I personally thank you for being very aggressive about applying, because you get 0% of what you don't apply for. So thank you, Jen.
Anyone else? We do have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor, aye? Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion carried.
Thank you. A little break from grant applications. The next one is contract 812309, final acceptance and payment. This is for solid waste in the yard waste compost site. Evans Company was awarded the contract earlier this year and has done all the work. Folks all saw it on our boat tour. It's in service now. People are depositing yard waste out there, fall collection going on. The value of work certified is $298,603.49, about 103% of our original contract amount. And that overrun, I think we talked about a little bit on the boat tour, was to place in that riprap and do a little erosion prevention and mitigation around some of those tidal inlets. So that costs a few bucks, but final payment in the amount of $5,972.07 is due to Evans Company. If you recall, again, this was a grant award by the PCA, with the amount of $250,000 with a minimum 25% match, which we met through both cash and supplying aggregate from our stockpile of solid waste. We received about $223,000 and change from the PCA, and we'll get the last $25,000 plus after some data collection and reporting requirements from that, which will likely be in 2024. So to carry that expense in the consent agenda, we move some money from investment account to pay for our expense here, which will be recouped next year, or at least some of it will be. I think, you know, in my summary, kind of outlaid how much cash we put in and how much supplied material we put in, so we'll have about $95,000 into this project overall, and this is grants. We recommend acceptance of the work and final payment to Evans Company.
All right, looking for a motion for contract number 812309. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Jefferson, second by Commissioner Walter. Any discussion on it? There's no discussion. All those in favor, aye? Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, the next one is a cooperative construction agreement with the city of Janesville for a safe routes to school project. The city of Janesville had been awarded federal transportation alternative grant funds for a project to extend sidewalks and construct trails and use some ADA things to help get kids to school safely. As a small city or a non-MSA city, they're requiring the county to be willing to be supportive of the project and be the fiscal agent for the project as well, which you did by adopting resolution 2017-47 a few years ago. We've drafted a cooperative agreement with the city of Janesville to identify roles and responsibilities and long-term ownership and maintenance of the improvements, which really puts a lot of this on the city to hire an engineer to design the project, which has been done, and then to do all the construction work. And then our part of it will be to shuffle paper and move money back and forth and pay their contractor. And we'll actually, next item will be to award a contract. So the county will hold the contract for the construction and have to administer that part of it, but all the construction engineering and things like that would be in this agreement for the city to hire a consultant, which Fulton is their city engineer and will be doing the work. So that's in there. And then there are some improvements within county right of way, specifically a box culvert and a trail crossing that will fall into their lap for long-term ownership and maintenance and replacement and relocation and all that good stuff, which they need to rise. The got Clinton Rogers from the city here, in case any questions come up that I can't answer, or if he has anything he wants to add. But the city adopted this last week, I believe, on the 9th. So looking for your approval of the agreement and execute the agreement with the city of Janesville.
All right. Go ahead.
Chair, I just need to apologize. I signed my name on your line. I don't want your copy.
Chair. You get to deal with Beth then.
The document I just handed Beth is a new original, so it correctly signed.
So I'm looking for a motion for the cooperative construction agreement. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Malter, second by Commissioner Christopherson. Is there discussion on that? There's no discussion. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, now that we have that in place, as mentioned, Bolton Inc. prepared plans, and then part of our responsibility as the sponsor agency would be to advertise and solicit bids, which we have done. The county opened bids for this project on October 12th. We had 9 bids, very competitive bids, which was awesome to see. Nielsen Concrete is the apparent low bidder with a bid amount of $438,900.06, which is a little over 9% under our engineer's estimate. And let's see. I guess we didn't really talk about it in the cooperative agreement, but we're expecting, the city was awarded $365,000 and change of federal TA funds. That was based on an 80-20 split. That'll probably be whittled down to about $351,000 and change after contract award is made and the state determines final funding determinations. The city of Janesville will be in it for $87,000 and change, which I also understand the school is contributing a fair amount of money, like $45,000, correct? Yep. $45,000 towards the project. So yeah, looking for award of a contract to Nielsen Concrete, LLC.
All right, looking for a motion. Contract 8123.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Krause, second by Commissioner Walter. Discussion.
It's Nielsen Concrete, where are they at?
They are out of Casota or St. Peter. They're also Nielsen Blacktop, sister companies. Nielsen Blacktop is the contractor we had for County Road Vision Trail over there.
So we have work.
They do good work.
Good.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Okay, thank you. And my last one is Resolution 2023-41. This is a LRIP grant solicitation county sponsorship for Woodville Township to apply for state local road improvement program funds. They are preparing a application for 139th Street and 345th Avenue, better known as probably Highlands Road. And one of their supervisors, right. Just have some questions. Similar to what we kind of just went through with the City of Janesville, townships are eligible to apply for this grant. There's at least $6 million of appropriated funds specifically for townships in this solicitation. And Woodville Township applied in 2021 and was unsuccessful by like one out of the money, I think, so they should have a very good application on this go around. In similar fashion, as a small city thing, townships require a county sponsor for the application to be the fiscal agent between the city or between the state and the contractor. So somebody like Janesville, we would have to award the contract if they're successful in the grant and shuffle the paper and money to the contractor in the state and basically being reimbursed so that, we would have to float their construction funds until we're reimbursed by the state or by the township for their share. But otherwise, we would, not be party to the construction costs or design costs of the project. That would be Woodville. And just, again, they shuffle the money for the contract for the construction aspect of it. We did support this project in 2021 by adopting resolution 2021-10. So resolution 2023-41 has been prepared for this grant solicitation. If you have any questions for me or for the township.
Let's get a motion on the floor.
I would move approval of 2023-41.
Is there a second? Motion by Commissioner Stokes, and second by Commissioner Krause. Discussion. Yes.
This is the one that goes past the cemetery then?
No, this is Glenn.
Oh, yeah. Okay, the left bus.
Is there a reason to touch on the city portion of this at all?
No, yeah, absolutely. So the city will also be entertaining a resolution in November, I think was what Nate was talking, supporting this grant application and committing to funds to construct their portion of the road. There would be probably a cooperative agreement between the city and township for the grant dollars if those are awarded.
They did annex some of that land in.
Yep, so a portion of the road actually falls under city jurisdiction. And they did that as well in 2021. Passed a resolution in support of committee funds.
So I'm sorry if I'm making you repeat something, but so when we applied in 2021, was it more or less money available? Or
Less.
Less.
1.25 was the maximum award. 1.25 million was the maximum award in 2021. And this go around, the maximum award is 1.5.
And the township was, if there was 12 spots, they were number 13 and then no one backed out. So, they did not move them up any.
So is it being applied for pretty much the same way? Or is there anything changing to try to get it up higher on the list? Or just hoping with more money and possibly less applicants?
As far as I'm aware, I think it's pretty much being crafted the same way. When they helped the township a couple years ago with their application, this time around. But I don't think the scope has really changed. And, costs have certainly increased, 1% inflation last 2 years or whatever. So the 1.5, I think it's a $2 million project. And 1.5 is what we're requesting.
The questions?
The 6 million from the legislature, is that more or less?
I think that's the same. same. I couldn't do it as. It's at least 6 million, so the scoring committee can choose more, but at least $6 million worth of township work.
But we don't know if it holds any bearing on where they finished last time.
We don't, it'll all depend on the applications on this go around.
Right.
But just the gut feeling is if they were one out of the money last time, they scored well, just not quite good enough. Depends on applications to score on. I think we still have a very good application.
Good. Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, aye? Aye. Those opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, on to number 7, administration.
Think about having Jim stick around doing the administration out there as well. I'll try to be pretty brief. I'll start with some construction programs. You'll see a number of projects happening in the courthouse in the near future within the next 2 weeks, ending end of October and really through all of September. The break room remodel downstairs, the flooring, mediations happening in the lower level, and the entryway being restored to more of the historic patina, so to speak, Woodbridge locally as well. So all things that have been planned for a long time. A couple of these projects are moved up from the 2024 CIP because we had some budgetary in 2023, so there was some cost saving opportunity for budget. So we expedited a couple of those projects as well too. So just so you're aware of that, by the end of this year, all of those remediations should be completed within the courthouse. We've already added some lighting in the main lobby area. If you have noticed that or haven't noticed that, but that's been helpful in some of the darker spots in that initial area when you come up those first set of stairs. Keep an eye out for some of those. I am asking staff to look at the possibility of eliminating this wall. I'm not moving it anywhere other than the garbage potentially, but just to open up some of the room over here to be a little bit more amenable to the layout in this space. Very low cost initiative. It would also have another door access in this back end of the dais as it sits right now. So similar to that side. We're also looking at putting a key fob on that door and hopefully not this door, but actually the other door on the other side of that. So just some minor logistics needed in moving the IT switch that's kind of right through this door, moving it over to the other side of the wall, the planning and zoning office as it exists today. That would be a little bit more conducive to the blowing up this whole wall area and moving the space back. I'll let you know what some numbers look like in that effort and what could or cannot be accomplished by our staff, which is really for the cost implication. I was able to do a presentation to the Full Region 9 Development Commission last Wednesday evening in conjunction with Christian Duckett and Jason Brooks. Christian from Region 9, Jason from Center for Engineering Excellence through the state of Minnesota Institute system. He's housed in Mankato, Minnesota State Mankato. Of the seven centers for excellence, I should say, in the state, 2 of them are housed in Mankato, which is nice to have some proximity. Center for AM Excellence and Center for Engineering Excellence. So they have both provided some synergy with the ongoing conversations we've had regarding Workforce Development Center and that presentation, which focused on the Workforce Development Center, that idea, that conception, as well as the ACE program, as well as the additional initiatives and programs and service deliveries that could be utilized out of that space in the future, which is where Jason came in and did a presentation on the lean training. He does a lean leader training and a lean train the trainer program. And we've sent 2 staff to that thus far. The only major complication is the only place in the state that it is provided is Lincoln County Technical College, so we're trying to provide another space as well ultimately. So that's another program that would be offered out of this eventual workforce development center is for Southern Minnesota is that lean training. And then there's a cybersecurity program as well too, or curriculum training that would be offered out of that space as well too through Minnesota State. There are some others as well, but those are what we're talking about and chatting through. We also did a presentation. Jason walked through the curriculum that the high school has been piloting, the BOC High School through Siemens Corporation, the Industry 4.0 curriculum. Just walk through some examples of that curriculum. They were the first one in the state to pilot, so it's been cool to be in the forefront of that, and then ultimately seeing how all of these initiatives will tie together in what this space is proposed to be. And we're still in a good position there. And so we meet with the construction team from the federal EPA a week and a half ago and walk through really for my own purposes to make sure we didn't run into any roadblocks with the nuance of the federal procurement process and the RFP process, knowing that you can run into some complications with who can competitively submit a bid based upon their involvement in any of the conversations or projects up until that point. So we're really looking at 2 different stages, information and plans being put together to get an application in, and then if the grant or the funds are awarded, a separate series of steps after that. So just trying to know what we would be eligible. In that instance, we would put together those plan sets, that preliminary strategic design concept that was submitted with the application. So wanting to know where, how, if they can be involved after the fact. And a lot of that is contingent on what that initial conversation looked like, what that initial RFP process looked like with the individuals that we solicited bids from. And then also what we would end up requesting for reimbursement on the architectural and engineering piece of it on that budget worksheet as well as under application. So more information than you probably needed, but all that to say conversations are still going in the right direction, and the EDA has been really helpful still in answering any questions that we've had along the way. So application is done, finalized, and then it was really just getting the final questions answered by the construction side of things before we submitted something. And that was a good recommendation from Tom Barron's, the rep we've been working with, again, just all in the with the understanding of trying to avoid any complications before we create them. So happy with the conversations there. I was able to sit down with the Vinegar CEO last week for a good amount of time, talk through their business, just get a better understanding of what their wants, needs, and desires are as it pertains to workforce and training. It's part of the overall workforce development center concept, but understanding more specifically what industry needs are versus, or industry training looks like versus site-specific businesses in the city county. It's one thing to say, here's the curriculum we have to offer, but if it's not what they want their candidates to be able to know and be trained in, then it doesn't necessarily help as effectively as it could. So just trying to fine tune exactly what some of those curriculum offerings and programs are that are going to be most helpful to some of our larger precision manufacturing companies within the county and ultimately within the region as well. Had a good conversation last night with Green Seed and a number of local individuals and leadership in the ag business world and manufacturing world. So it was a good conversation well. Continuing to look at some budget outlooks for 2024. I will likely pull you into a work session if you're so willing, as obviously the preliminary has been passed and approved, and needing some additional insight from the commissioners on what that final landing spot would like to be from your perspectives, and then ultimately what those individual impacts would be in the budget itself. That will, what's the date on that, December 21st, I think, evening of it's the normal Tuesday date, it's just moved to the evening. So then we would have the normal board meeting from 5 to 6, 5:30 to 6:30, and then the budget presentation starting at 6:30. Just how it's set up currently. So whatever normal business would be on the agenda will be taken care of first, and then if there's a short recess as we move into the actual budget presentation meeting. 19th?
Right.
Oh, I'm not sure. Tuesday, yes. 19th. Thank you.
There was an inquiry meeting that day. That's scheduled to go to 5, and then we also have a placeholder from 5 to 5:30.
Right. Yeah, we ran into the same thing this last year, so we can coordinate likely ahead of time with Tara, who's pretty familiar with the chair of that joint powers board. So we can maybe arrange something there to ensure there's some room.
So make sure we don't have time to address it.
Yeah, thank you. Any other updates specifically you'd like from me? I did get the final invoice trial balance from Minnesota Valley Action Council for our internship program. It came in at just over $40,000. The budget was 50, as you recall. But they sent their thanks as well as they did to that presentation if you're able to attend that here. Commissioner Harkin was able to be here, at least from what I recall. Continues to grow each year and be utilized by more and more. We had eight interns. This nice iteration.
Yeah,
Come on, include me. Sorry.
Yeah.
Commissioner Cross.
Hold the headphone.
I was focused on the snacks. So $40,410.40 was the final total. So it came in under budget. And I'm sure that will continue to be utilized more and more as the commissioners are looking to continue to fund the program in the future. But a lot of thanks from the local businesses that were able to get an interim place as well. And we'll just hear some of those stories of both what the interim did, but also what the impact was on the local businesses. So a successful program, and hopefully one that can be continued in the future.
So last year was the first year.
First full year, yes. Yeah. We did end up having a few placements in 2022. That was originally, the board had determined to allocate $35,000 to that program. So it was pretty late throughout the year, but they were still able to get, I think, it was either 5 or 6 insurance. And this last go around.
So it should be, we should look for a little more improvement or a little more activity this next year.
Yeah, as the word gets out there a little bit more and people know that it's an option. It's a good one. Anything else for me?
What companies were you were at Green Sea? You said there were some companies or people there?
Still both.
Some
Some local representation, nonprofit representation. Yeah, a number of others.
Okay, well. Barry was there. Okay.
Just well.
Farm America. I think his name from restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
So are those people aware of impact to?
The internship program?
Yeah. I would assume.
It would be up to so that action council to make those connections, but if we want to ensure that those connections are there, we just need to make sure we forward them to the gal that is running that.
I mean, I just don't want, we're active in those two groups, I just don't want them to not connect.
No, for sure.
Because they have a pretty robust marketing plan right now. If there's a specific business that we would like to ensure is notified, they would be more than happy to do it. Our only caveat is that it has to be a county constituent program currently, so unless that changes. Some of those organizations aren't based within the county, they do work within the county. It doesn't mean there can't be some overlap there, of course.
Sheriff's office would be looking for another.
Possibly.
Yeah, sure. Jason stuff. Oh, that's right.
Jason.
Okay. Those topics going. Good.
Anything else for me directly? Or indirect?
Or indirect.
Thanks for the time this morning. I'm not sure if you have any other specific direction for staff as you would like to see from the Justice Center conversation. We didn't get into a lot of the other fiscal pieces today, other than what the presentation offered. If there's more specific questions you would like answered or information you would like to see, feel free to direct me as you see fit to.
Yeah, do you, I know we've talked about this, you know, who would go into that building? Who would, but I guess I need, because at one point in time, I thought we were talking about 36,000 square feet. Is that, am I dreaming that, or was that one time in the conversation?
It was, 37 was basically the minimal program need. Now, what that doesn't factor in would be the building factor. Those are the spaces of the departments, not how you get to department or a hallway between. So that would be the additional over and above really is what they refer to as building factor, which is about 10% over what the actual prescriptive square footage office need would be. But there have been some additional changes, the fitness center designation being one of them. That was not in that original program. That was an ask after the fact. And a couple other minor in the grand scheme of things, but that ultimately add up to an additional square footage, obviously.
What exactly would be in this fitness center? Would it be machines, or I mean like a hotel room that's got all the machines you can go to, or what is it?
Similar to that, I can't specifically tell you because I'm not designing it and we haven't seen that because the county ultimately can make some of those finishing determinations. Right now, all we know is it's a space. What goes into that space is going to be part of that 18% contingency that they were showing you with what some of those finishings look like. So there will be several other subsequent conversations, but the only thing we really know right now is there is a space designated as such. What goes into it is going to be a future conversation.
And that's required by the DOC.
I think that's required in this DOC.
This is not for the jail.
Oh,
This is
okay,
for
yeah, that's
employees.
Right. This has been well, even backing up to a union narrative, this has been a long time ask from the sheriff administration, and I understand the ask, but it was an ask. So it's in the program as it sits.
Oh yeah, you know, what I think about is, we want to get those people out of the basement. Probation, that for sure. Do you have plans of what would go into that space?
I would not want to really put anything in that space.
Not even fitness center. Well,
Those ceilings are high enough.
I don't know how you would accomplish that because you can't move a single wall that's in there, but it's something we could converse on.
just short people. Just short people.
None of those in my family, so that's why I mentioned it.
So Doug and Beth. Have fun.
Perfect.
That space would end up being more of the centralized storage for the county in general. It's- Other than John's office, there isn't really a conducive habitable space. If it was a small office that needed a service window, and I thought through that too, and that would be, could it possibly work? Possibly. So thoughts on that?
Yeah, is there any, what else in that basement would be moving in there? And like you said, you didn't plan on anything going back in that probation area other than storage. Is there other space similar to that you're planning on would go into that?
Not that wouldn't be reused, no.
Okay.
The basement area, really the only other staff designation would be county attorney's office. And that space would be backfilled.
Right.
Unless it's bureau and likely soil and water.
And then above them is
Court administration, of course, yes.
And that would be backfilled by what?
It depends on, Tammy and I talked about this very high level, but what future assessing needs there would be, or recording needs, or election needs. So it would absolutely be filled, but to what extent and who lands where, I don't know. Because part of that would be how the connectivity with that corner works. If you have the existing plan, basically that hallway connecting point is coming right through the back side of where Shannon's office is right now, which is the back of that court admin area. So it would have to be connected somehow, somewhere. And the two options are basically to have a hallway that goes right through the existing service window or through the back side of the bullpen, so to speak, of the assessor's area and connect it to the hallway that's already there, that the restrooms are located in. So that, like, the more intuitive of the two options would remove two of those cubicle areas that the assessors or the appraisal staff are currently residing in. But then it would still leave that service window and office space available to utilize.
So that's the Michael doing the facility study on his own, knowing what people have to be repositioned to, if you will.
Yes, we have rough concepts for how and where everyone would land, for sure, and alternatives to all of those. A lot of that is just walking around and measuring, pointing at things, saying, can we get rid of this wall or not? Just pointing some of those things. So, I mean, going back to the presentations, one, I mentioned there's the blend of the philosophical and fiscal. It's just having to find what balance there is to be found within those two talking points, because those are really the two that matter. Philosophical being more so, must the county have a jail? And if the answer is yes, then there's a fiscal component to that. If the answer is no, there's a fiscal component to that. And which narrative wins based upon some of the other wants and or needs, rebuild the jail as it stands today and not really solve anything from a BOC standpoint because you don't have a way to get them to the courtroom. Solve that. But we can be holistic, twice the number plus that we saw this morning, or it could be standalone with future possibilities and initiatives from the number we saw this morning. Or something entirely different, which has been discussed in previous models, trying to connect existing spaces to existing spaces. It's a model that commissioners saw in 2017. Probably. Just know that there's still a significant price tag for staying where everything is at right now. It's just the thing I try to keep in the forefront of my mind. That staying put is still an expensive price tag as well.
Anything else, Michael? From the board? What is the board's wishes on, Commissioner Walter had to go to a ditch meeting last time, so we did not do commissioner reports. So feeling either way. Same through the catch up. Commissioner Walter, you want to go?
All right, so the last time we had commissioner reports was on the 26th of September. I have been spending a lot of time with SHAC, Foundational Public Health Responsibilities Funding Group, numerous meetings. And I do have a base formula, and now we're going to talk about implementation next. I'm hoping that work group will end here shortly. We had a SHAC retreat in Wilmer. That was very well done and a lot of good learning and a lot of good conversation. We met on the 3rd of October. That was when I have to go down to that ditch meeting. On the 4th, I did IPOS training here in the annex. And then I attended a public health community conversation session that was held in Janesville. That was very good. Our public health staff locally did a great job of soliciting information for their upcoming community plan. On the 5th, I spent some time here with the Board of Adjustment, facilitating that meeting, since I was familiar with it, and since our planning and zoning staff is now, one of them is out on maternity leave. So that was good. JLT infrastructure funding subgroup, and on Friday the 6th. And on the 10th, we had a meeting over in Steele County to further flesh out what it might look like to cooperate with them on a jail or not. On the 9th, I went to the library board. Then after that, on the 10th, I went to a Discover Waseca meeting and heard from the businesses how they're working on promoting. I don't know what that was on the 11th. Some meeting for Waseca County, was that? I don't know what it was.
What?
Oh, I know what it was. I was online. It was with Woodstock. I bet. Yeah. Friday the 12th, SHAC funding group. Then a conversation with the communication group that's working with MDH on their messaging. And SWCD that evening with Commissioner Christopherson. Friday, we went to SWCD on the 12th. Friday, I was up in the Twin Cities for an AMC board meeting. And yesterday I was up in the Twin Cities again for a joint leadership. And then got back in time to spend just a little bit of time at the Green Scene event and had some conversations there. So.
Commissioner Walter, the 11th was BKV
Was that
virtual, and then Winseth was here on the 12th in the East End.
And Winseth, I only got in a half hour with. And
you were in
BKV,
here.
I was on the phone in the car.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, sure.
I think it was the 19th since we done this. I know you said 26th, but that was just a work session.
That was just a work session. I bet you're right. Yeah.
So the 19th, we had also a work session, then I went over to Safe Harbor, part of Resource Center, SCHRC, had their 40th anniversary over there. And so I stopped in for some cake and a tour. And then same time we had a Min Prairie meeting that afternoon. The 25th, P&Z subcommittee. And then that evening, we went to the city council, Richmond City Council.
We had HRC that night too.
Yeah, we had HRC that night too.
It was raining.
Yeah. 26th was a work session. 28th was South Country Health Alliance. And also JD 51, we had a quick meeting to set final hearing on that. The 4th, met with land resource people to talk a little more about the ditch assessments for 2024. The 10th then also was our, with Commissioner Malter with Steele County and their detention center people to see what a contract would look like if we were to go that direction. The 12th was the soil and water. We did some more talking about how they should be presenting their budget and year-to-date information to make it more transparent to the board members and us. And then on the 17th today, we had work session, and then we will have Min Prairie this afternoon, which we will be passing to redistribute some of the reserves back to the counties. So that money will need board discussion on how that gets used. So to me, we'll want to have that discussion sooner rather than later, right after I get done picking corn. And then, because I think it could have some 24 budget impact.
So there were some magic on that, if they're redistributing something.
They're still keeping 35%.
Yeah.
So they have a
So
full
that's where they're
35%
at. Okay.
reserve. Everything over that is what's being redistributed.
Yeah.
Back to us.
Absolutely.
So there's still some magic fund and some,
They instituted, the Joint Powers Board instituted a policy that would redistribute any funds in excess of 35, actually 36%, 35 plus 1%, on a yearly basis after the audit was over, so that the reserve fund would not grow given that.
the plus one is for CIP improvements.
Right.
And that is also capped. So we won't keep dumping that 1% in there.
Oh,
It's capped at 250 or 400,000.
400,000.
which I think is, to me, it helps me budget for Mint Prairie, because we know if we try to keep the budget as tight as we can, but if we do over budget something, it's gonna come back. You know, we're not gonna have that reserve growing. That's all I got.
Commissioner Crowley?
Yeah, if we go back to the 19th of September, from board meetings there, and then up to the 25th with the P and Z and HRC at 4 o'clock, and then we were down in Richland. And Tuesday, I got down 9 AM UDC, but I can't remember about that.
What's that? UDC 9 AM on 26th.
The 26th.
We did.
Yeah, at our work session.
Oh, that was the work session,
Work
yeah,
session.
of course.
So you were dreaming of
I was-
soybeans that you were.
Must have been dreaming.
Yeah, Labor Committee that morning.
We did.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it is.
Okay. And then, the 28th was, JD 51. And a short meeting there. October 3rd, we met with the sheriff in the morning. And then, board meeting. Wednesday, the 4th, the Land and Water Resources, going over some assessments. And I think it was on the weekend of the 7th, or the 7th, Saturday the 7th, or Sunday the 8th. I know Commissioner Hargett and I have been stopping at Courthouse Park to see what activities have been going on out there. And thanks to Mr. Hargett on his work out there. And then I stopped out there, talked to Jason, how they were doing on the bathroom out there. And I got done talking to him, and there was another man and his wife just got done playing disc golf. And I happened to stop and talk to him, and here was Brian Sheldon from up by the cities, who's a professional disc golfer.
Really?
And he had just got done with the course. I don't know, he knew what the course record out there already.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was a tall guy like Mr. Johnson, and he just loved the course.
He did, that's what
Yeah,
Good to
there's
know.
just been constant traffic.
Oddly enough, he heard about the course in Nebraska,
Yeah.
where he was playing an event. So he stopped
Did he
here.
email you at all? No.
No, he left some commentary on the app though.
Oh, nice. Good. So it's all right, and people know about it.
So like was his comment, he didn't make any comments like it's really hard.
He said it was, yeah, he said it was one of the harder courses. Because it's more of a,
Okay, that's what I wondered, if it would deter some of that semi people that novice.
You know, we have a more recreational course, and that will be more solidified going forward. So there's the black course, which is the professional one. I think gold maybe is the more recreational one.
Okay.
So there's shorter basket, and in the future, there will be essentially, most of the holes will have 2 different baskets. On the professional course. And
So colored, then black versus
white.
Yeah, oddly enough, we were out there Saturday afternoon and evening and had bonfire, and it started raining and it was getting dark, 7:15-ish. And these 2 people came walking in and they had green lighted discs. So, the UFO thing is probably not dead. And they were the one person through and you could hear it go, and the next person through and hit a tree. But it was, they had their lights going to where the course was, and then they would throw they were lighted discs.
know some work needs to be done out there yet, but
Yeah.
it's exciting that it's getting so much attention already.
It is. It looks really nice out there without, the shrubbery gone,
Yeah.
You can look through, you can
Right.
see
Right.
if they're playing down this one, or they're playing
Yeah.
over here.
Right.
You can see through there. It's really nice. I thought it was really
I just don't hurt as much as a golf ball.
You got it on the floor?
So in the month of September, there were 213 registered rounds through that UDisc app. And maybe half of the people that actually go and play actually utilize that app. Those are more of the diehard individuals that are utilizing that app and submitting their scores and things through there, which is why Ryan would think that the course record would be, because that's the official designation of that. So already getting several hundred people playing rounds per month has exceeded even what I was anticipating, especially for this year. A lot of additional buzz and excitement for the following year, especially as some of the amenities are increased, the course is groomed some more, and just generally beaten down by foot traffic more is helpful. So we'll be a busy summer, for sure, definitely. And that was part of the conversation I had last night with John Mansfeld at the courthouse, because I know he's seen an uptick in destination breweries essentially, so people coming from out of town going to his business as well too. I was talking to him about trying to create some synergy there as well too, how we get people here for this and then push them to other businesses. Most of the times the more professional players or even the more higher caliber players, not even the professional players, are going to come and play 2 rounds a day. So they're going to eat somewhere, they're going to get gas somewhere, they're going to get some level of supplies. So being more intuitive of what our local businesses, what information can we have out there to, if you're going this direction, stop here, if you're going that direction, stop here. And working with the business then, if they can, say they showed up to play a round of disc golf, what special or deal do you have for the disc golfers and to incentivize getting there?
There needs to be some connection there with Discover Wasika, because they're they're doing all of that kind of stuff kind of already and have some of those connections. I think about the boutique shopping here in town, which would be a good complement to some of that as well.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, there are a lot more connection points that need to be made throughout the county for certainty. Like I said, I wasn't expecting it to be quite so popular so quickly. It's a good thing. And in terms of the hardness factor, the difficulty factor, we did it that way with intent, because it wouldn't be nearly as much of a destination if it was just another recreational course. People want the difficult, large shop variety. And that's some of the nuance of how you play, either backhand or forehand. That, of course, either attunes to you or doesn't, and there's a tremendous amount of variety in how it's designed to make it more difficult even for the more prominent players, which is what they like.
Yeah, Ryan did mention it's either harder for the backhanders or forehanders. I can't remember which one he said, but.
Yeah. So it attunes to the majority of probably backhand throwers, but there are several holes where that isn't the case, and that should be the design, that should be the concept. But It's officially the longest course in the state. Which pulls people in as well too.
They get around twice.
It took about not even a month for a league to be created for the county, and the Owatonna and Mankato leagues kind of merged in Waseca as well, form a larger league. Part of the interesting thing of the app is you can see spatially the distance people traveled to play it. So that's
What is the name of this app?
UDisc, the letter U, DISC. Because they all have a home location and track essentially where they came from to play and how far they went. It's kind of interesting.
That was it?
I'm good.
That was it?
Yeah.
19th was our regular meeting. The 25th of September was the original city council. Tuesday, the 26th, 8 a.m. labor meeting, 9 a.m. work session for Unified Development Code. On Thursday, the 28th, I came in for the active shooter, which was here at the East Annex. Friday, the 29th at 10 a.m., we had a meeting at Public Works for solid waste Semrex.
Just to clarify, active shooter training.
Training, yeah. Thank you.
I looked a little confused.
Yes.
I was like, what is going on?
We might want to proofread that, Jeff, before it. Right, active shooter training, thank you. What did I say? Monday, the 2nd of October, I had the Arts Council at 6:30. Then we had a regular meeting. We met with the sheriff at 7:15 on the 3rd. 8 a.m. work session, 9:30 meeting, 7:30 was Woodville Township meeting. Wednesday, the 4th, at 7 a.m. in the East Annex here was Waseca Lakes Association. Thursday, the 5th at 9 a.m. we met in Rachel's office. Fair Board on the 9th at 7 p.m. And the 11th, we had the BKV, that was the virtual for the Justice Center at 9:30. I had another meeting that night at 7 p.m. at Woodville Township for the fire truck. I guess, do we have something at 1 p.m. on the 11th for Public Works? Thursday, the 12th was the WIDSEF presentation here in the East Annex. And then last night was Green Scene. Brings us to today. So
One other thing I'd point you folks to was a guest speaker for the school district's political science class last week. And part of that was because that group will be putting together some candidate questions and inviting commissioner candidates to attend that debate of sorts. It's not really a debate, I'm probably not going to call it a debate, but candidate conversations. I don't have the final date for that, but I believe it's the last week of October. It's probably going to be the 25th or the 26th at Waseca High School auditorium. So just something to pay attention to. If you're curious, we'll get it on the board calendar so that you can feel free to attend, of course, more than two of you. But I believe it'll be live streamed as well too, and talking to John Hanson. So when I get that final date, we'll pass it along. But try to keep that in mind if you could for the end of. And then the 26th, the evening of the 26th is the Treats on the Street. So not sure if there's anyone that wants to participate in that. They plan to have a table outside the courthouse as well too. Some info, but a presence as well.
Yeah, that was a hit last year, wasn't it?
On the 24th, Michael, at City Hall, the state bonding committee's coming, 2:30, correct?
Correct.
And then Commissioner Walter, you have Wednesday, the 25th at 8 a.m. You'll be heading up to AMC meeting. And Nicollet at Historical.
Yes, we have a District 7 meeting.
Yeah.
And it is in the county. So it's not very far. Yeah, you'll be getting email about that.
We have our staff and personnel that will be meeting and working too, so see what I can figure out for myself.
Rachel, do you have anything to add?
I got it this time. Thank you, though.
All right. I guess not. Do you have anything to add?
Well.
Looking for a motion?
Yeah.
I'm so moved.
Is there a second? Second. Motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries.